I'm Jody Bear, and we're back to the future. This year's theme is putting IT in the driver's seat. IT needs to have a seat at the table and help push forward, enabling the business's vision for how the strategy moves forward for the organization.
CIO is an orchestra director as opposed to a manager of projects. So there are many roles that are being played, some of them staffed directly from the inside in companies, some of them staffed in contract, some of them staffed as gig workers. And all of them have to come together, even though they might not be anywhere close physically, to produce the results that are expected.
And it's just really cool to see how tech people have gone from being the nerds to being critical at every phase of what's going on, right? The challenge of being both strategic and operational and people-focused has gotten more complex with the speed of change. So you have the whole data protection side of the equation, and now what's transpired is how do you go from defense to offense without losing anything on the defensive side, right? And not easy to do, but it's pretty exciting to go after it.
IT community, locally and nationally, we've talked a lot about cloud computing, and I think we're now seeing the results of that. And if you're not in the cloud today, if you don't understand how that works, then you really are at a disadvantage when it comes to some of your competitors out there. Everything as code is a totally different paradigm than what we've done in the past. And so with some folks that have been around for a long time like me, you have to change the ways you think about things, and the pace of change is incredibly quick.
The pandemic saw a lot of companies that had not yet attempted a conversion to cloud and figured out a way to make their culture agile and fast moving. They got left behind. So there was a sense of urgency to keep up, catch up, get ahead during that time.
Well, so 5 years ago, most of my clients would say cloud first meant moving as much as I can to the public cloud. That has changed dramatically. Over the last couple of years, people are building their own private clouds and leveraging those, or essentially creating these edge solutions, right, that allow them to essentially be part of that cloud, multi-cloud strategy. And the public cloud is really now a place of when does it make it most convenient for me to use that? And at the time frame, I wanted to use the public cloud because I had the ability, the elasticity to expand when I needed to. So around Black Friday, I could get more processing power. If I'm doing development, I want to have more testing capabilities. That's not the case now. A lot of companies are still providing that as a private cloud right inside of your data center, the same way you would have it as a public. So people are more comfortable bringing that data back into their own house.
So I think the comfortableness with digital being a media where we can interact very effectively for almost everything. There are still things, collaboration meetings, where you really want to be able to move around and talk and get up and pace and do those things that I think still work better in an in-person environment. Celebrations are funner in an in-person environment. And there are some types of communication, especially if you're having difficult communications, which can really be helped by being present with somebody in the same physical space. So we talk about the three C's, collaboration, communication, and celebration, being the things that we still love to do in person, and think about planning those and being very intentional about facilitating those. But really the meetings to get work done, people are very comfortable with that.
The environment and the culture of an organization is very important to everybody these days. again, it's not necessarily, you have to pay them competitively, but they're really more interested in the culture and feeling valued. And the culture isn't just, you have a beer keg in the break room and, you have ping pong. It's not that. That's a component of it. It's more around how do I feel like I'm contributing and making a difference in what we do.
Our first keynote speaker was a female CIO. And that in itself was a big deal because it was still a time in 2002 where it was rare to have women as CIO. But Christy Savicall, who was the CIO of Boeing at that time and sat on the board at Ohio State University, was our keynote. And that set a tone from the very beginning where we wanted to, number one, consider diversity with the woman aspect, but also make sure that we were learning from the business.
Diversity was important back in 2015. It's just as important now. The intersectionality of it all, and find and develop diverse leaders, because that diversity is so important to the success of our companies, to the economic success of Central Ohio and of our country.
I had strong opinions about diversity and inclusion for a long time. In 2020 and 2022 did not change that. So for us at State Auto, really, as much as a global pandemic can be a non-event, it really was one. From the day I got to State Auto, I focused on leadership and getting the right leaders in the right seats. And that built the culture that I wanted to have, which has a lot of what we've been talking about. Focus on the individual, focus on that servant leader mentality, and you layer in, if you believe in those things, how do I get more of a diversity of experience, diversity of opinion around the table to get better business outcomes?
I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball because I think we are in for so much change in the next several years. Obviously, before this interview, we're spending some time talking about the Intel announcement and what's to come with that, and who's to predict what's going to come with that. But what we do know, it's going to be big, and I think that it's going to be interesting to watch how as a community we handle the next several years. How as individual leaders in the community, how we react to that. As I think as humans, we're linear by nature. I mean, that's life. We're linear by nature. But when you think about change, and in particular technological change, it's exponential. And we're in for some unbelievably exponential change in the next several years with everything that's happening in Central Ohio. But I do know this, so I don't know a good answer, a succinct answer to your question, but I know it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be unbelievable. I think it's hard to wrap your head around what we're in for, but I'm really energized and excited about it.